welcome back to another episode of the Sister Talk podcast. I'm your host, Gold Chain Diva. And as y'all already know, I'm just a sister who has a lot to talk about. And I mean, at this point, I guess it's from month to month, I got a lot to talk about because your good sis ain't gave you an episode in about 2 months at this point. Listen, I apologize, y'all. Listen, I've been out here trying to build this business, trying to be diligent and obedient to the vision. So I apologize that I haven't been coming to y'all with the tea. Now, what's been going on with your good sis? I know a lot of y'all are probably wondering because your good sis, like I said, I've been on a little hiatus for the last 3 months. And anytime that I take that much time away from y'all, it's for good reasoning because life be lifing. Now, over the last 3 months, 2-3 months, a lot has been going on for your sister, okay? Man, y'all know I like to keep y'all in the loop about what's going on in my life. I like to be transparent just in case anything that I'm going through, any lessons I'm learning can help somebody out there with something that they're going through. But I'm going to try to keep it short and sweet just because I got a lot of tea I want to talk about. Got to spill a lot of tea on y'all. And I don't want this episode to be super long either. But in the last 3 months, like I said, a lot has happened, right? If you follow me on social media, you know that the devil tried to take me up out of here back in September. Got into a bad car accident where they actually had to cut my door open to get me out of the car, rush me to shock trauma. My car was totaled, all the things. I think this really is the first time that I guess you all are probably getting to see me actually talk about it. Because I know a lot of people, tried to reach out at that time, but it was just so overwhelming for me because I think one of the things that people don't realize is that when it's something traumatic like that, and you ask the person constantly over and over and over again, what happened, what happened, what happened. Every time I have to tell you that story, every time I have to visualize what actually happened, it stirs up trauma. I have a traumatic response to it. So honestly, if I told you, I'll let you know, I'll give you a call later, let me just get myself together, just charge it to the situation, not my heart, because I know your hearts was in the right place. And you really wanted to check up on me and make sure that I was okay. But honestly, at that time, it was overwhelming. Mentally, I was just in a place of just, brain fog, questioning God, why now? I was having so many thoughts at that time because right before that happened, my business started to kind of pick up a little bit, started making, some valuable connections in the city, kind of got my momentum going. I was chasing this thing, trying to get it together, was feeling good about it. And of course, anytime life starts going, too good, it seems like something always has to happen to kind of humble us and build our character. That's what I'm choosing to say about the situation, that it humbled me and is helping me develop my character because it's helping me realize that honestly, none of us are above anything. All of us are one paycheck, one situation, one bad decision away from being on the street, being homeless, being destitute. So none of us are above anything happening to us that could change our lives or change the trajectory of our lives forever. But like I said, at that time, mentally, it was just a lot going on. I was having panic attacks real bad, anxiety real bad, just with even not even just being behind the wheel, but also being in the car with other people. At one point, I'm walking different places and just having the car zoom by me was a lot for me. So I just mentally just had to take that time for myself and work on my mental and get myself together before I could actually sit in front of this camera and, be a miracle and be a testament to how good God is, because obviously I'm here for a reason. And God did not allow that failed attempt by the enemy to take me out of here. So I always say you're on to something when the devil try to take you up out of here. And so that's what I just chalk it up to. I chalk it up to the fact that, obviously I'm getting close to my destiny fulfilled, manifesting my wildest dreams, making it happen. If the devil saw fit to, kind of try to get me up out of here like that. Now, On to the next situation, right? Like I said, I'm just gonna try to keep it all moving for y'all because I know y'all like to hear about my life, and, I'm gonna dive back into it. I'm gonna get us right in 2026. I'm gonna get back to it. So I'm gonna spill the tea. I'm gonna give y'all the tea about my life just a little bit, but I want to get into the real tea, and then on these following episodes coming up, I'll kind of spill more of the tea of what's been going on in my life and what's going on going forward. But nonetheless, you all know, I've been on this dating journey, and not having no wills, has not stopped me from being able to run my movie, as my homeboy would say. Listen, your good sis been running her movie out here, okay? Not having no wheels, listen, that ain't stopped me from being able to, be outside and kind of see what Charlotte has to offer me. Man, it's so funny because I was just like, when I finally get to tell y'all, because y'all know I always say that the dating pool got poop in it, got pee, got vomit. It's just real septic out here, right? And listen, it always proves me right. The more and more I go out there, the more people I meet, it always never fails that my thought process about this dating situation, it never fails. It never proves me wrong. It never ceases to amaze me with the things. But I just think it's so funny because, like, ultimately, when I was thinking about like telling y'all what's been going on in my life lately, I really was thinking about the fact that my life, at first, I was very excited about where my life was at when it came to dating because I was just like, oh, living single in a 90s kind of world. Listen, I felt like I was out here like, Queen Latifah, Regine, all the people on living single, living my best life out here, like going on dates and, exploring the city and having the experiences and getting dressed and all the things, all the eligible bachelors. And that's how it started. But then somewhere it started getting real goofy. And I started to realize, okay, my life is really turned into a scenario in waiting to exhale. Now, those who know, look, I saw something that clock that T ain't this. Apparently, it's this. So we gonna start, doing it the right way. But clock that T. Listen, I'm about to tell y'all. My life has been like a wait and exhale scenario. And if you don't know what wait and exhale is, it's one of my favorite chick flick movies. Go ahead and make sure y'all take a look at it. It's on Tubi, not too much on Tubi, but it's on Tubi, okay? It's a classic, best soundtrack of my life. Hey, hands down, I stand on it. But my life has literally been like a scenario in waiting to exhale, right? For the girlies who know, you got the man that's the quick pumper that want to give you the world. Be like, you want a house in the hills? I got that. You want a vacation property? You want to go to Cancun? I got that. Girl, listen. Then you got the married man, that don't want to leave his wife. That wanna, but I love you, Savannah. Look, he's a good man, Savannah. He just in a terrible situation. And that might be true, but he ain't for me. Then you got my favorite, Wesley Snipes. When he had that scene with Angela Bassett and they had that nice little night together where they ain't do nothing nasty with each other because he couldn't find it in his heart to cheat on his wife, but they laid in that bed ever so gently all night just cuddling. And he sent her that letter. He said, if this letter never reached you and we never meet again, just know that you changed me. Listen, all I'm going to say, I don't know if he watching this or not. Listen, he changed my life, okay? I promise you, in all the situations that I've been in, being able to be with a man that respected my sexual boundary at that time. Anyway, another story for a different day. I might tell you, I don't know. Anyway, that respected my sexual boundary was different for me. It was absolutely refreshing for me. It was absolutely like I explained that as the most gentle that I've ever been handled before. It was just a beautiful situation, being with a person genuinely enjoying their company, spending the night with them, but it not being sexual, like it being completely innocent, intimate, gentle, all the things. And so that moment for me, like, was just one of the moments that I needed. I never thought that I would experience it because we out here in this dating world, and most men, they want one thing and they make it very clear. But to have a person that respected my boundary and didn't try to push it, that meant a lot to me. So if he is watching,
Shout out my nigga Gucci. Shout out my nigga Gucci.
then like I said, listen, life started getting a little goofy. One thing about Charlotte that I will never complain about is options. All you gotta do is go out one good night, wear the right outfit, have the right energy. The roster be stacked back up. Okay. Phone ain't never been dry except for this last month by choice. But it's never been hard to find any options out here, right? But the options aren't the greatest. So I'm just gonna say I posted a status on Facebook, but maybe a couple weeks ago that was just like, look, send all these men back to their mammies, okay? And I meant that because sis, you raised that man to be like this, so you deal with him, okay? I don't care. Listen, my homeboy said all of us. I said, listen, old ones, new ones, fat ones, blue ones. Send all them niggas back. Send them back. Okay? Send them back. Let me tell you something. I've dealt with every type of man there is to deal with at this point, right? We all say, oh, as we get older, we don't have a type. We shouldn't have a type. We're not bound to one type of person. We don't want to limit ourselves, right? So I'm like, okay, I'm gonna think outside of the box. I'm gonna date outside of my norm, outside of my type. We're gonna give it a whirl. I got to a point where I'm like, okay, I dated an old, he older than me. I'm 33, 40. And I'm like, okay, I like certain things about this man, at this age. I think 40 might be a sweet spot for me, but I'm like early 40s. But then somewhere along the lines, listen, I ain't gonna lie to y'all. I try to keep it transparent with y'all. I started dating a man that was 50, y'all. 50. Yeah. It was cool though. Like it was crazy because like I always was like, ew, older men. But then when you actually meet one and you realize, like, okay, it's about how they carry themselves, their persona, all the things, their personality. I actually like vibed with this person. I was like, okay, it's not about the age. Like, age ain't nothing but a number. And I was just like, okay, I'm gonna just go with the flow, enjoy the time for what it is. But I think as time went on, it's like what they say, and I know it's a cliche saying where they say you can't teach an old dog new tricks, and I do believe that dating an older man, you have to know to some degree that that man is set in his ways, and those ways may be the very reason as to why that man is still single at that big age. Um, and honestly, I think that you have to also realize that they're not willing to change in some regard. They see the world totally different because, I'm a millennial, but that man was of a generation who sees the world totally different, who's lived through totally different things than I've lived through. And it was cool because somewhere in there we joked about our ages and made little jokes about things and kept it light. It was cool. But somewhere in there, I think I started to realize that this man's life is established in a way that is comfortable for him, and he's not willing to shift or bend to bring somebody else into that scenario. And I saw a video the other day. One of my best friends sent it to me, and it was talking about how like people, need to be okay with the uncomfortable and kind of get out of situations sooner than later. And I agree with that. I feel like people sit in situations longer than they should just because like the person is a good person, like a good man, but they may not necessarily be a good person or a good man for you. And sometimes you got to walk away from that and say, look, this person is a good person, but they don't quite check off the boxes for me. And you have to know that like if you walk away from a situation, that there's better out there. Like I know it's real septic out here, but one of the things that I will say that I have learned, and I'm just going to wrap this phase up because like I said, I don't want to spend too much time here. I want to get to the tea. One of the things that I've learned during dating, in which I try to give myself grace and understanding and just keep pushing forward even on the days where it doesn't seem like it's easy to push forward and continue to meet people. One of the things I've learned is like really dating multiple different people helps you learn a lot about yourself, number one, but it also helps you learn what you like, what you don't like, what you accept, your deal breakers, it like what's important to you. Like I'll say that during this phase of my life, like actually like getting out there and meeting people and dating people, like it really shows me what's important to me. Because I think that prior to actually having that experience, a lot of our ideas of what love and relationships is comes from TV, which is not always the most accurate. And so I think that like living through it and being in a situation and like understand like encountering all these different people and how they love and all those things helps you realize like I never knew that like I knew that intimacy was important to me because one of the guys that I dated taught me that intimacy was important to me because he didn't give me any. And so but I also didn't realize until dating somebody else that there's a difference between intimacy and romance. And I think a lot of us probably don't, still like even saying that because like even with that particular guy, I had to explain it to him. He didn't know what intimacy was. He thought that intimacy meant intercourse. And I had to tell him, sir, hold my hand. This is intimacy. Telling me I look beautiful is intimacy. Putting your hand on my leg, putting your arm around me, that's intimacy. I just want to feel close to you. I want to feel regarded. I want to feel safe. I want to feel warm. That's intimacy. Um, but like romance is totally different, right? Romance is now we take it a step up from that. Now I want a man that's thoughtful, that's intentional, somebody who like, they know that they want to court me and it's important for them to be meticulous in the way that they include me in their life and into their day to day and all the things, just knowing that I'm a thought on their mind. And so romance is totally something different. It's like feeling special. But now I do have this question, just in case any guys are watching, because I like to always keep it impartial because this is not just a woman's podcast. For my guys out there, I really have a question for y'all, and I'm being serious, like I'm not being facetious. One of the questions that I have for men, right, is because a lot of the times I do feel like men are underappreciated and they and over expected certain things, right? I feel like we have a lot of expectations for men in dating, including myself. We have a lot of expectations for them that they must, live up to or whatever the case may be. And a lot of the times I think that their needs kind of get lost within that process as well. So the questions that I have for guys is in the dating process, right? When is it appropriate? Like even like not even trying to bring up the 50-50 conversation or anything like that. But like, okay, one of the expectations that us as women have is that the man, at the very least pay for the first date, right? But there's also an expectation that the man will kind of pay for majority of the dates following that, right? So when is it appropriate for a woman, like what date, third, fourth, fifth? Is there a number that we put on this where it's appropriate for a woman to reciprocate and pay for a date or like, or plan a date or, I think with one of the guys that I was dating, one of the things for him was, if he pays like, I tip or, I've seen videos where they're like, oh, girls can bring like a first date gift, like something small, like a tie clip or some socks or something. So guys, I just want your opinion because I do feel like it could get misconstrued, with some of the guys that I've dated, and I appreciate them for stepping up and paying for things and, whatever the case may be. I really appreciate that because that's your way of showing me that I matter to you. And then once I feel like, you're serious, then I obviously want to reciprocate. But like, I'm just wondering, like, what do men want to be like? What do men want to see from a woman in a dating phase? When do they want to see it? Like, when do you want to see us step up? Like, I don't know. Every guy is different, but let me know down in the chat like your thoughts on what a woman should do in the dating phase to also let a man knows that she's worth being courted. Also, because as much as men are proving themselves to us, I do believe that we're also proving ourselves to them. And a lot of the traits that I find important, in being a partner, I don't get to show those things immediately in the beginning, like cooking dinner or washing clothes. Like I'm an acts of service type of girly, so I do like to do things for my partner. So those things you don't really get to show right away. So I'm just curious because I want to be better. Okay, listen, I'm trying to be better. I think, and this, like I said, this is the last thing I'm going to say. There was a situation, long story short, because I know y'all been seeing me go to all these Hornets games, right? So I have season tickets for the Hornets. Now I got said tickets with somebody that I was dating, that I'm no longer dating, but the season is still going. So that is, oh, listen. So nonetheless, long story short, because I got 40 seconds, I'm gonna wrap it up. We got these tickets, we stopped talking, I ghosted him. I had to, at the first game, I had to open this moon and talk to this man and give him some type of explanation as to why I ghosted him. We had a long, fruitful conversation. He gave me the blues for the whole first half of the game, but the conversation, like I said, was fruitful nonetheless. Learned a lot about myself, learned a lot about him. We shared a lot with each other. So I believe that God is pushing me to a place to not ghost people and to actually voice my feelings and not hold them in, because those conversations will make a good relationship. So yeah, I just feel like that's where God is elevating me to, is a place of being able to voice how I feel. And one of the things that I'm realizing is that I like to be in control of a lot of situations. Is when I feel like I'm out of control, is when things kind of go bad for me in situations. And so I'm just trying to be better. And so, guys, just let me know down in the chat what your expectations are. Like, kind of help your sister out. Listen, help me out and help all the rest of the sisters out in these comments. And I'll read some of the comments on one of the next episodes, because I'm just curious. Like, I'm very curious. So let me know. Now, the moment you all been waiting for. It's time, y'all, to spill the tea. Okay. It's been a minute since I asked y'all to put them pinkies up. It's been a minute, but it's time to spill the tea, guys. Okay. Like I said, we got a lot of tea to spill, and I don't want this episode to run too long. So we're going to try to get through some of these items as much as possible. I mean, it's so much that has happened. I know I'm not going to touch on everything on this episode, but right now it's some things that's going on in the media that I'm just like, you know what? We got to talk about it. Now, one of the things, and we talked about this person a fair amount of times on this podcast, that I would like to talk about is Kai Cenat. He's a streamer in the streamer world that, I mean, he's doing amazing things, argumentably one of the biggest streamers in the world right now. Now, a lot of you may know, and probably at this point have seen clips on social media from the Streamer Awards. Now, the clip that you may have seen is a clip of an Asian female named Fan Fan, who goes by Is Fan Fan on social media, who was also of the streamer world. She was the host of the show, and she made a joke that didn't quite land in the middle of the show, talking about Kai Cenat. Now, this particular joke, she joked that Streamer University was one of the least educational universities. She also said that he had the most expensive haircut. And then where the joke fell and flatlined completely is when she made a reference to Kai Cenat being in the new documentary on Netflix, kind of saying that, basically saying that he looks like Diddy, and kind of saying that was Diddy. Now, I also went down a rabbit hole today. Apparently people are having theories about destiny swap and things of that nature. I don't know if you all believe in that, but basically a lot of people are saying Kai Cenat has kind of traded destinies with Diddy. Listen, I don't know. I'm neither here nor there on that. But what I will say is it was very, very, very much cringy to watch that young lady deliver that joke like that. Now, I'm not going to lie to y'all. I didn't know who Fan was until this situation happened, right? So I had to go look her up, kind of see, what kind of content she makes or whatever the case may be. So it looks like a lot of her content is like reaction videos and things of that nature. Now, I also was like, let me look at this girl's personality. Like, what does she normally act like? Is she funny? Is she lighthearted? Is she joking? Is this a thing that she normally does? And it doesn't seem like that's the case. It does not seem like this girl has a funny personality. So that was my main question is why, like, obviously somebody wrote that joke for her and they kind of use that like roast style joking system that they normally do at award shows, and which it would have been good had they picked the right person to probably deliver that line. But why would they choose her? That's my question. Whoever was in charge of choosing the talent, why would they choose this girl to deliver that line? Let's be real. I think it also exposes what a lot of people are saying as far as the streamer community anyway, is that you got all these people now who are somewhat famous and have all this notoriety, but nobody has real talent. And I think we got to see that in real time where it's like, okay, this girl amassed, a certain audience and a certain level of views and notoriety, but is she talented? Like, that was way far out of her wheelhouse. But then the funniest thing to me, which I was here for every second of it, was Kasanai's homeboy Tylil. If you watch them on streaming, you know exactly who Tylil is. He stood up for him. He actually said, "Come over here, shorty, pass the mic," and got on the microphone and basically said, "Yeah, if we gonna tell jokes, let them be funny." And I was here for that because I was just like, you called this man Streamer University the least educational university when realistically you trying to play that man, you playing in his face, because even though it's not the traditional, maybe the word should have been untraditional educational university, something like that, because this man literally took streamers of the streamer world, gave them equipment, had them doing certain activities. So literally he taught these people how to be successful in the streamer world. Okay, so it was very much educational. It just wasn't educational in a way that we might have thought a university would be. But let me know down in the chat, what are your thoughts about Kasanai and how this lady humiliated him in front of the world? Because personally, I wasn't here for it, and apparently there were several shots taken with Kasanai's team throughout that night that basically, made it seem like they were trying to make an example of them and they were being some haters. So let me know down in the chat if you saw that video and your feelings towards it. Now, speaking of Diddy, because like I said, they try to compare him to Diddy because now he got this haircut. A lot of people say they look alike. But speaking of Diddy, right now, one of the biggest things on the internet that everybody's talking about is the Diddy documentary, The Reckoning of Diddy. Now, of course, I had to tune in. Because we talked about Diddy. We've talked about everything leading up to this case, him actually getting indicted, or him, going to jail and things of that nature. We talked about different findings that were happening in his court case and all the things. So we have to talk about this documentary. Now, for those of you who don't know what documentary I'm talking about, this is a documentary on Netflix and is executively produced by 50 Cent, Curtis Jackson. Now, a lot of people have a lot of different feelings about it, right? But personally, my first feeling that I don't think many people are actually saying in the critique of this is it was quality. Okay, we're not going to sit here and act like the documentary was not quality. Everybody wants to critique 50 Cent down about being the villain in the story because he's always the one who's, starting something with somebody. But we're not going to sit here and act like it wasn't tastefully put together, because it was a very tasteful documentary. Okay, very tasteful. It was put together well. It set the tone for the story. You could see like the building up that they did to kind of set the tone. It was factual. They continually over and over and over again, kind of showed this image of this is what he was charged for, but this is what he actually got charges for, and this is what he was sentenced to. So they made it very clear that that, what the situation was and the ins and outs of it all. And so I think that that's one thing that needs to be said about it is the documentary was very well put together. It was a very good documentary. I think that, like I said, them showing how it was when he was a little boy and kind of setting the tone for, where some of these traits and actions and things that he would do in his adult life, how it kind of stemmed, from growing up with a dad that had his background and a mother that had the background that she had. I think it kind of set the tone for us to let us know, okay, this is like where the seeds were planted. Maybe they not didn't sprout up yet, but this is where it started. And so we kind of get to empathize with him a little bit because we kind of say, you know what, he's a product of his environment. It was only a matter of time that he was going to even get into some of the things that he got into. So I think that's the first thing to be said about it. But then also, I think one of the things that I don't hear but people talking about enough is Andre Harrell, right? One of the reoccurring themes in this documentary, and which this is not the only documentary that I've seen with this, is when they're basically talking about how Diddy was like a studier of people. What he did was he looked at people that he wanted to be like, he studied them, and he perfected it and, carried it forward and became the person that he wanted to be. And so one of the people that they brought up was Andre Harrell. Now, the thing about it is, okay, we talked about Diddy's Flavor Camp, right? We talked about that. When I had my good sis sitting next to me, we talked about Diddy Flavor Camp because that was where we were talking about like him having custody of Justin Bieber. And then we talked a little bit about his relationship with Usher and things of that nature. So my thing is, okay, what we found out in the documentary was Diddy Flavor Camp wasn't the original. Uptown Flavor Camp was the original. So now the question that I don't think a lot of people are asking is what was going down in Uptown Flavor Camp? Because if Diddy has this trait of studying someone, which they made it very clear that there were several tactics that he learned from Andre Harrell that he took and he made his own. So one of the things that I feel like people are not talking about is a lot of these traits that he probably got, where did he get them from? Did he get them from his peers? It sounds like the math is mathing to me. But then another person that probably never came into the conversation is probably, what's his name? Clive Davis. A lot of those influential people that Diddy was around. So when you really think about his rise to fame and all the things that he did and how he, pretty much, I don't want to say impersonated, but implemented some of these things that people around him were doing, we got to look at some of the people that he was looking at. There's a bigger conversation to be had. He's not the only nigga that's out here doing this. He's just the nigga they chose to make an example out of. Let's be clear. Now, the one thing that y'all might drag me for this, is I just didn't understand why everybody is so surprised by this documentary, right? I feel like there's no information, like maybe I feel like it was one thing in the documentary where I was like, wow, I didn't know that. But most of it, if you grew up in the culture, if you were paying attention, it was always before us. So I'm like shocked by how many people are shocked by this documentary. I don't feel like 50 Cent really told us anything that we didn't know already. Like other than like, I guess zoning in on that piece, and I can't think of his name at the moment, but with his partner that helped him found Bad Boy. And then maybe like some of the details with like, how he was kind of railroading Biggie a little bit with certain things. But honestly, I think most of the information that was told, I don't understand why people were surprised by it. And maybe I guess I can see it a different way because I grew up, Diddy was one of my favorite people, right? I mean, to this day, you can go on my Facebook page and go to my memories, and there's several statuses where I might have said, I want to be the female Diddy because I really did. Like I grew up inspired by this man, inspired by who he was in business, how he just chased it, like how he had this like hunger for, like making something big. Like he was that. Like, And so I remember having those feelings towards him. I remember like the TV show that he came out when he was looking for an assistant and all those things. And I really wanted to do it. So I mean, I think I can see it differently because ultimately I'm a lover of the culture. I watch so many documentaries. And so I think a lot of this information, like I might have just, soaked in because I was interested, and maybe none of this was ever on your guys' radar. But I was very much not surprised by any of the content that was sorry y'all. I was not surprised by any of the content that was shared in this documentary. A lot of it was just like, you know what, we've been told this before. Like, I think that what this documentary did a good job of is, one, a lot of people are calling 50 Cent a hater, and they're like, oh, well, why would you kick another black man while he's down, and da 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 da. Honestly, I think that this documentary did exactly what it should have done, which is it's going to hold Diddy accountable. Okay. One of the things that it kept saying over and over and over again is that this man got 50 months in prison, right? He got 50 months in prison, which in the grand scheme of what they were trying to get him for is not a long time. Okay. He sat down most of that time before they even start, you know what I mean? It's time served. So it's going to fly by. He's going to be out in no time. But what I think that 50 Cent did with this documentary is make sure that this man is not able to move the way that he once had moved before. I think that he wanted to set the tone for who this man is and what he's capable of. And now people will be looking at him a little bit differently than what they looked at him before. And so it's going to be harder for him to kind of get away with some of the activities that he may have gotten away with in the beginning. Now, with that even being said, a lot of people are like, oh, well, like Cedric the Entertainer was talking about, like, you know, he only got charged for stuff that like people grown folks do. Like basically, I had shared on one of the other podcasts about, it being like people having a shirt on that said a freako is not a Rico. So a lot of people were kind of like saying like, oh, he's just a freak. That's how he get down. We just opened the door to his bedroom, things of that nature. But it was no way that he was running a criminal enterprise, da 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 da. My thing is this, okay? As we saw with Kalima from Dirty Money, Diddy obviously made contact with several people, okay? When there's money involved, one of the things he kept saying was, it's a lot of broke assness going around. Broke assness is at an all-time high. So you don't think that this man called some people that knew some things that might have been on hard times, that needed a little bit of money, and made sure that he could secure his future? You don't think that's what he did? I don't know. Listen, I don't know. I wasn't there. I don't know. But what I will say is, yeah, so the court system is what you can prove. And that's why this man did not get charged with the RICO and, some of the other charges that they were trying to place against him, because they couldn't prove certain things. Okay? So just because they couldn't prove it, which a lot of my crime show junkies, y'all should know, just because they can't prove it don't mean it didn't happen. Okay? So I just think we should just pay attention to the fact that, yeah, justice was served in the regard of what they could prove, but I'm sure there's so much more that we can't. I'm sure there's so many more names that's tied to him that, everything would come tumbling down for so many other people if it opened up. And so, of course, he was able to buy silence. Of course, I think he threw the amount of money that he could at it to make sure that he got the best possible scenario that he could get. I think him doing 50 months, cakewalk for him. That probably finally gave him the street credibility that he was looking for. Now, the thing that is so crazy to me, and I'm going to get off this Diddy subject, is the craziest thing to me was how they basically kept trying to like play my man. Like basically trying to play him to some old because he was talentless and this, that, and the third. And I get it. He wasn't a singer. He was never a rapper. But somewhere in there, he had some type of vision that was instrumental in helping these people move forward. So I think we gotta like not do too much on Diddy because I mean Diddy had a lot of classic groups, a lot of classic acts up under him. And I don't think that that's the thing that we should take away from him. That's my personal opinion. Now, when it comes down to, the different things that he had to do to get some of that stuff, bribing people and, holding them with a bat and all types of stuff and drugging people and not paying them. Yeah, that is not right. But that was also one of the things that they said that he learned from Andre Harrell, how to stack the payments and move it all around so you never know where your money is at. So all I'm saying is, God rest his soul, because Andre Harrell is not here no more. There are so many more people that are tied to Diddy that we probably should be looking at. Okay, that's all I'm saying. Let me know your thoughts down in the chat. Now, one of the people that I want to talk about is Ray J. Ray J is also one of these timeless people who has been in the media over the years. He has been a fixture in our households. He has been a form of entertainment for us for as long as we can remember. I don't think that we're ever, amazed or shocked by anything that Ray J does at this point, because we just expect Ray J to carry this certain persona. Now, his latest shenanigans landed him in jail because he showed up to his wife's home and pulled out a gun on her while he was on live. And so he ended up being released later that day on a $50,000 bond. Immediately, because my sister was the one who told me about this, and I actually did not get a chance to like watch the video to kind of see this. But personally, my first thought was, this nigga doing this for clout, right? If you watch and pay attention to Ray J closely, there has been several times that he has made it clear that what he's doing and the way that he's acting is what people expect of him, and it helps boost the numbers. Okay, I think that Ray J is a lot smarter than what we peg him for. The same way we kind of underestimate Orlando Brown. And I'll get back to Orlando Brown in a minute, but I think we underestimate him. I think that we don't give him value for his brand, for him cracking the code and knowing what works. One thing about Ray J is he ain't never been broke and probably never will be. That man reinvents himself over and over and over again to stay relevant throughout the years. And so I think that that's one thing where I'm just like, okay, Ray J is doing the most, right? Speaking of Kai Cenat, because we talked about him earlier in this episode, there was, he went on the stream with Kai Cenat, and then like everybody was talking about him getting a hard on in the video and how inappropriate it was for him to, be having that in front of these young boys and all the things. I just think that Ray J at this point, like, he gotta have a moral compass. He has to center himself and really think about, okay, is streams, is like the numbers, the algorithms, all the things worth my soul? I think that's what he really has to ask himself. Because one of the last podcasts that I watched with Orlando Brown, and I can't think of the name of it. It was like, I cannot think of the name of it. But it was a really good interview. I think one of the best interviews that I had seen with Orlando Brown. But y'all may know what I'm talking about because it was a viral clip of him slubbing all over the microphone again. So whatever that, if you find that, that's the one. That was just a viral moment. But if you actually watch that whole interview, like, Orlando Brown speaks some real stuff. And one of the things that he talks about is basically how Ray J studied him and studied, the impact that he makes and how he stays relevant. And basically he's trying to do the same thing. And so I believe that Ray J is out here just trying to do the most to get paid. But there's somewhere in there that he has to be like, yo, is this worth selling my soul for? And I think he actually said that in one of his interviews. I don't know if it was the one that I saw him with the Breakfast Club. I think it might have been. But he also keeps alluding, like Hollywood is a dark place. He also keeps alluding to the sex tape that he had with Kim Kardashian years ago. And he also keeps saying, hey, y'all keep asking me, but have y'all ever asked them? And so it's a lot of things that I think that are being strategically placed in front of us, but nobody's caring enough to figure it out. But y'all let me know your thoughts down in the chat. Are y'all over Ray J at this point? Next up on Spill the Tea. Now, this story I got a kick out of. I'm not even gonna lie to y'all. I got a kick out of this. It was a story about how a drone dropped contraband into a prison in South Carolina. Apparently, there was a Christmas feast that was dropped into a South Carolina prison. The items in which it included was some crab legs, Old Bay, some steak, some cigarettes, and some marijuana. Now, listen. I don't know why this was so funny to me because, like, they said that the guard intercepted it before it got to the prisoners. But I just feel like let them man live. Like, let them eat them crab legs in peace. They gonna be there for the rest of their lives. Listen, look, the fact that they even got innovative enough to get somebody to take this drone and drop it in there, let them men do what they do. It ain't even that deep to me. But I don't know why I just found that so funny. It amused me. It tickled my spirit. But y'all let me know y'all thoughts down in the chat. What are your thoughts about, that drone dropping these items into the prison? Should they have been able to keep them? Should those things be considered contraband outside of the cigarettes and the marijuana? Like, or should they have let them go ahead and have their little Christmas feast and crack into them crab legs and that steak? Let me know down in the chat. Now, one of the things I want to do in this episode, I want to give two different iconic groups their props, right? The first group that I want to give props to is Outkast, okay? Outkast, I mean, I love Outkast. I don't think as many songs that I don't like by Outkast. Like, of course, we like, sorry, Miss Jackson. Ooh, I am for real. Like, that's always gonna be a classic. But then we got ones like you are the prototype. We can, we got that one. Then we got ones like, hey, yeah, oh. Look, the first group to ever do a album where they battle against each other. But Outkast has so many iconic moments. But Outkast was recently inducted into the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame in November. And Donald Glover, aka Childish Gambino, was the one who did their induction speech. And then they had performances by Doja Cat, Killer Mike, Jid, Tyler the Creator, and Janelle Monáe. And I think, this conversation, them getting inducted, I think is well overdue. Like, I know some people feel like, oh, everybody holds their own personal time, in their space and time or whatever, and they won it when they were supposed to. But I just feel like, Outkast has done so many great things over the years that I'm not sure why it took them so long to get them in there. But I am so happy that they did. So I'm going to go ahead and give them a hand clap. Now, this next group are my babies, okay? They always will, always have. I'm always going to be a super fan. In the nursing home with my dependent, my rocking shit, okay? They're always going to be my favorites. This other group that I want to give props to is B2K, okay? Listen, the reason why I want to give B2K their props, right? So I saw them at the very first Millennium Tour in Baltimore, right? So excited. I saw them. Now, my experience wasn't what I had hoped that it would be, because I guess like by the time they got on, because they were the headliners, everything had overheated, so they had to wait until the stuff cooled off in order for them to get on stage. We waited freaking hours. Like, I'm lie to you not, I'm pretty sure they did like a pass the mic type situation. They did a whole bunch to keep us occupied and keep us in those seats to make sure that B2K got on that stage. And I waited because I was like, no, this is who I came for. I'm not leaving. Like I'm leaving here with something. Okay. So I waited, but it was not the best experience. And so the reason why I want to give these boys their props is because they're going on another tour this year coming, the Boys for Life tour, where they're co-headlining with Bow Wow, and they have others such as Jeremiah, Waka Flocka, A. Marie, Young Jock, Crime Mob, Franchise Boys, and Pretty Ricky on the lineup. Now, this celebrates their 25th anniversary, but also being reunited with Bow Wow 20 years later after the Scream tour. And so I'm just so excited about it. Like, I've literally been watching so many interviews, and I'm just this time it feels different. Like, the first time we know, like, all the drama went down between Omarion and Fizz, and I kind of had side eye Fizz a little bit. I ain't had no respect for him, but I've since forgave him for what he did to my husband. But it wasn't right. Then we had a lot of blow ups with Rasby. It just seemed like the chemistry wasn't there. It just seemed like, yeah, for sure. Like, we got all this baggage, but we gonna get this bag. That's what it seemed like initially. Now, even though they put on an amazing show, the artistry was absolutely there. You could just tell that it wasn't on the right terms. They weren't on the right terms with each other. And so watching some of these interviews that I've seen with them lately and kind of see how they're, talking about old stories, old memories that they have with one another, just seeing how they're relating and carrying on with each other, it really seems like it's a place where they're finally like bonding again, where they're finally free, where they're finally like enjoying each other's company again, where it's light and it doesn't feel like anybody feels harmed or attacked or anything like that. And so it just makes me so happy to hear them like really bask in like their success, like really like take it all in and really like give this next show their all. And so I just wanted to give them their props because like the fact that I'm still hyped up about, baby, that's the reason why I love you. You're my heart, girl. Listen, it's no reason why that still gives me the feeling that I had when I was in elementary school. Like all these years later. So go ahead and give them a round of applause. I absolutely think that they deserve their props. They definitely, have stood the test of time. And I'm just so happy to see them back together. And if anybody's wondering, because Christmas is coming up, if y'all wondering what to get me for Christmas, all I'm saying is 100 level seats in Charlotte. I think the show is in March. They only about $130. So if you want to treat your girl to some tickets, listen, y'all go ahead, put a crowd fund together. Everybody give $5. Send $5 to my Cash App, Gold Chain __ Diva. To help your sister, make her dream come true. Cause I feel like I gotta see them again. But yeah, just give them their props because listen, they're one of the best to ever do it. I don't care what nobody say. So yes, now it's time for because I gotta make this a full episode. Make sure I give you all the things. Now it's time for a conspiracy time. So today on Conspiracy Talk, y'all know that I have this big gripe with artificial intelligence. I've always told you all how I feel about it. We've been talking about AI, I mean, for a very, very long time now. I told y'all about my feelings against, AI, kind of being the antichrist and ushering in the end times. And since then, I still feel like there's so much evil to AI, but I've changed my perspective. I feel like it's a necessary evil, right? At this point, I feel like it's one of those things where it's here to stay and we must embrace it. If we don't, we'll get left behind a curve, behind a shift that's currently happening right now. There's people that's saying that so many millionaires in the next 5 years will be made strictly from their implementation and their ability to observe the trends and think forward when it comes to artificial intelligence. And so I've tried to kind of see the beauty, the silver lining in artificial intelligence. But I mean, I guess this is really not a conspiracy, but I really wanted to tell you about this because it's a real thing. So AI psychosis, right? Or AKA They're calling it chatbot psychosis. Basically is what they're saying that, excuse me, people, it doesn't cause psychosis in healthy people, but in people who have some type of mental, deficiency or whatever the case may be, um, they can develop AI psychosis because of the design of the product. The design is the design of artificial intelligence favors agreement, and the constant availability that it has to users can reinforce delusional beliefs, making users feel like AI is divine or revealing secret knowledge. um like literally, people are developing relationships with AI where they're like, like they're looking at AI as a supreme being, like a god, or an all-knowing figure, or people who don't have friends, that like AI is really their best friend, and they're having full conversations and seeking validation. Like AI never says no. AI is never going to tell you no. And so a lot of people are latching on, and it's causing them to be in this state of psychosis, is because people are perceiving AI's human-like responses, um, as it having its a level of consciousness, as it basically, is able to think for itself, fueling irrational ideas that people are having. Lonely individuals turn to AI for connection, blurring lines between reality and the AI's output. They also have hallucinations. False outputs can be integrated into the user's delusional framework. This is likely to impact vulnerable individuals, people who lack real world social support. And that's one of the real reasons why I think that this is a thing, because so many people in this world don't have adequate support. They don't have people that they can turn to and talk to, and just release or glean into and get certain type of feedback from, and things of that nature. And so that's why this is on the uptick. I don't know if I ever stated it here on this podcast, but I believe a lot of people kind of lost their marbles in 2020 during the pandemic. And so I think that this is just one more thing that allows these people to just go even further off the deep end. And so, they're saying that this isn't a new illness, but it's basically an exacerbation of existing vulnerabilities, where AI acts as a powerful isolating catalyst. And so that's why I think that this is so dangerous, is because we've already gone through this level of isolation during COVID. And believe it or not, even though we're 5 years post COVID, and even still with other variations, so some would say that we might still be in COVID, even with these other post COVID situations, we've already experienced a lot of isolation in 2020, and a lot of people have not bounced back from being in that isolation, and so now we got people who have never bounced back, who probably still have some type of worldview that's kind of skewed, now having this new tool that they can lean into and basically kind of get this courage from, to do whatever it is that they want to do, no matter how deranged it may be. Literally, there's a bunch of stories about people who, got this false sense of courage from AI, ex AI about, like, what they should do as far as whether they should quit their jobs and if they should demand more money and all the things, ended up losing their jobs and so many other things. So it really is impacting people's lives tremendously. And so we just got to be careful with AI. Like I said, I'm not really sure if it's a conspiracy. I mean, my mind would say this is a conspiracy because, we started off with COVID and now we're here with this tool that's further isolating people, and now not encouraging people to think with their own brains. So I'm always a person that's going to say it's absolutely a conspiracy, that they want us to not think and be stupid. So yes, conspiracy or not, I don't know. You let me know down in the chat. Now, just keeping on this theme of um AI. I want to talk about another situation where this AI artist, the first of her kind, that was signed to a record label um called Hallwood Media, and has also debuted on the Billboard radio chart. Her name is Zania Monet. She is being fueled by a woman named Talisha Nikki Jones, who is 31 from Mississippi. Now, the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because, I just became familiar with who she is recently, and a lot of you probably already know who she is. But honestly, when I saw it, I was like, oh, this is weird. Like, this is weird. But I think it's weird to me because I just have this space in my heart where I just refuse to accept AI 100%. Like, now AI has gotten so good that, I mean, we can look at something and it looks completely real, which freaks me out and scares me, but it's not. And so I literally question everything. Like, even as good as it's gotten, you can still tell what AI is. Like, I feel like people need to continue to use their brains and challenge themselves to question what is real and what's not. Because one of the conspiracies that we talked about episodes back was Operation Bluebeam, where now we're going to start questioning our reality. Things that we think are real are actually not. And so I think that that's what they're gearing us up to. Hey, conspiracy or not, I really think it's a conspiracy. I think that this is all a grand scheme play into desensitizing us even further than what we already are. But nonetheless, this AI artist exists because Talisha Nikki Jones has a book full of poems. Says that she types them in to the prompt. She says, she wants to use the lyrics from the poem as the lyrics. Then she says, okay, now create a slow tempo, R&B female soulful vocals, light guitar, heavy drums, all the things. She puts it in, she clicks enter, and bam, you now have this AI artist. You have this sound, you have this look, you have all the things. And literally, it's the craziest thing to me. Like I said, I believe that it's a necessary evil at this point where you gotta lean into the curve. You have to realize that if you don't use it in the way that Talisha has at this point, you're gonna get left behind. So listen, don't hate the player, hate the game. So I'm just gonna ultimately give her a hand clap because she saw an opportunity. She saw a gap in the market and she took it. So I'm not mad at sis by any means by doing what she did. She did exactly what I feel like she should have did. And now sis is laughing all the way to the bank. However, that still raises the question for me of what are we like, where are we going in this world with even having this capability? Because I believe like it's just going to be a skewed sense of reality going forward, and honestly that scares me. It scares me when we don't know what's real and what's not. Like, it really scares me when people can sit behind something and pretend to be something else, because now that adds also like to the say AI psychosis. Now you can dissociate and create this persona of who you are and detached from who you are in reality. So all of this really scares me. Maybe I'm thinking too deep into it. I don't know. But listen, I already told you I got a gripe with AI, and I'm sure I'm not letting up with it anytime soon. So let me know your thoughts down in the chat. If you heard Zania Monet's first album, her first single called "How Was I Supposed to Know," let me know down in the chat what was your thoughts. And if you've seen her on social media and you've seen exactly what this artist looks like, are you weirded out when you look at this? Because I'm like, the whole time looking at it, like AI will never be satisfying to me. I need human beings. And you can tell when it's not a human being. I don't give a damn if it looks clear, crisp, or whatever. You can tell. And if you can't tell, you need to be asking yourself why you can't and trying to get back to reality before it's too late, before you're in the matrix and you can't get out. But yeah, let me know your thoughts down in the chat. Is AI the end all be all? I don't know. But as always, thanks for tuning into this episode of the Sister Talk podcast. I thank you all for holding on, for me to give y'all this episode after all these months. I hope you enjoyed the information that I shared on this episode. I'm not sure if I will be able to give y'all another episode before the end of the year. That's why I made sure I got this one done for y'all so that y'all can close out the end of the year, on a high note when it comes to the Sister Talk podcast. So if I don't get to say it to y'all, Happy New Year, Merry Christmas, Feliz Navidad, Happy Holidays, Happy Hanukkah, all the things. I hope you all enjoy your time with your families. I hope that you all reflect and get yourselves ready for this new year. And I'm not going to say create a New Year's resolution, because resolutions we hardly ever stick to. But have a plan and make sure that you set yourself up for success, to execute it in the new year. So thanks for tuning in. If you want to follow me on social media, follow me at goldchain__diva, and I'll talk to you soon.